Today, from anywhere in the world, we can sit down and buy products from another country within seconds. A phone from China, oil from the Middle East, coffee from South America, cars from Europe. The world has become more connected than ever before. But most people think this system began with modern technology, with the internet, with airplanes, with giant corporations. However, the truth goes back much further. About 2,000 years ago, when electricity did not exist, when cars had not been invented, and when people did not even fully understand how large the world was, humanity was already beginning to create a connection on a global scale. The name of this connection was the Silk Road. But the Silk Road was not just an old trade route used by a few merchants. It was the world's first global network, a network that made empires wealthy, started wars, built cities, spread religions and ideas, and even changed the lives of millions of people. Perhaps the most fascinating part was this. Many of the things that shape the world we live in today began thousands of years ago on dusty roads in the middle of deserts. In the 2nd century BC, the world was completely different from today. In the East, there was China. In the West, the Roman Empire was rising. Between them was a massive region stretching thousands of kilometers, mountains, deserts, steppes, and unknown lands. These two great civilizations were not completely unaware of each other because there was something connecting them. Trade. A product made in China could reach Rome after months of travel. A merchant would leave China and sell his goods to another merchant in Central Asia. That merchant would sell them to someone else, then to another person. Across thousands of kilometers, goods moved forward by constantly changing hands. That is why the Silk Road was not actually a single road. It was a massive trade network made up of hundreds of interconnected routes. So what was the most valuable product carried along this road? As the name suggests, silk. For centuries, the Chinese protected the secret of silk production. Silk was so valuable that for Roman aristocrats, it was not just clothing. It was a symbol of status, a display of power, so much so that some Roman leaders tried to restrict the use of silk in order to prevent excessive luxury spending. Because silk was not only expensive, it also caused Rome to lose enormous amounts of wealth. For some Romans, silk coming from China was fascinating. It was incredibly light, extremely soft, and unlike anything Rome had ever seen before. But not everyone in Rome was happy about it. Some historians suggest that Rome believed the constant purchase of luxury goods from the East created economic problems. In other words, thousands of years ago, countries were already debating a question that still exists today. What happens if we buy too many products from other countries? A debate that continues even now. But the true power of the Silk Road was not in the products it carried. It was in the ideas, because silk was not the only thing traveling along these roads. Knowledge traveled, religions spread, technologies spread, cultures mixed together. For example, paper production. This technology, developed in China, gradually spread westward, and it changed human history because knowledge could now be stored and shared much more easily. Later, this transfer of knowledge even played a major role in accelerating scientific developments in Europe. Religions also spread through these routes. Buddhism traveled from India to Central Asia and China. Later, it combined with different cultures and took on new forms. Merchants were not only making money, they were actually building bridges between worlds. An idea born in one city could change the lives of people thousands of kilometers away years later. But great trade routes did not always bring peace, because where there is trade, there is money. And where there is money, there is power. And power always creates conflict. Cities along the Silk Road became incredibly wealthy. Cities like Samarkand were not just trade centers, they were cosmopolitan hubs where people from different parts of the world came together. Different languages were spoken there, different religions existed, different cultures met. However, this wealth also made these cities major targets, because whoever controlled the Silk Road did not just control a road. They controlled one of the economic arteries of the world. That is why throughout history, many empires fought for this region. The Persians, the Turkic states, the Mongols, the Chinese dynasties. They were all searching for the answer to the same question: who will control the trade routes? However, the Silk Road did not only carry wealth, it also carried dark consequences. The greatest of these was disease. Trade routes connected people with each other, but they also connected diseases. In the 14th century, the Black Death spread rapidly through these networks of trade. Millions of people died across Europe. It became one of the greatest disasters in human history, and one of the reasons behind its spread was that the world had become more connected than ever before. In other words, globalization had both advantages and risks, and this is still true today. The Silk Road may have lost its former importance, but its legacy is still present in our lives. The global trade system we use today, the economic connections between countries, the way cultures influence each other, all of these are continuations of a connection that began thousands of years ago. The Silk Road showed humanity something important. The things that change the world are not only armies. Sometimes it is an idea, sometimes it is a product, sometimes it is a small trade route connecting two different people, and it can change the direction of history, because the Silk Road was not just a road. It was the first great network that connected humanity. Were built and the foundations of the global world we live in today, thousands of years ago, on those dusty roads.